the deadlift. So this is a conventional straight bar deadlift. There are many variants: hybrid stance, sumo stance, trap bar, power stance, all this different stuff going on. But it all comes from this basic conventional position. So if you're a power lifter, this is what you got to know. If you've not done a bunch of deadlifting and you don't have any particular issues in the hips or the spine, not a bad place to start, although the trap bar is also a good variant as well. So for the standard deadlift, first off, make sure you got a flat surface. If you don't have a flat surface and the bar wants to roll a little bit, small plates under the bar itself or under the plates that are on the bar, that'll help. Just make sure if the plate, you understand, if the plate is too large, when you come down, if you're off target, it might bounce off a little bit under a heavy load. That can become problematic. But you don't want to have the bar rolling around. And the reason, I've seen this a lot where people will bend down and then pull the bar to them. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. And the reason being is that it will of necessity throw off your landmarking and understanding where you need to be. It's important to understand how to set this up so you can pull with maximal efficiency and not have undue levels of strain in any part of your body, obviously, and particularly the low spine. So when you start off, you're going to essentially put your midfoot under the bar. This is a general rule for most people. It will, again, be dependent upon your unique anthropometry. I cannot say this enough. When you see someone in a video saying, like, set up in this fashion, that's always the case where it's like most people will be in that place and do well. Not all. It depends on specific anthropometry. In my case, I got the torso of a guy that's about 6'6". I got the arms of a guy that's about 5 foot nothing. I got the legs of a guy that's about 5'3". I'm a Heinz 57 monster of a creature. As a function of that, certain exercises, my anthropometry lends itself very, very well to, and other ones not so much. This is one that I have significant advantage in because of my short femurs. So when we get to that point, we'll talk about that a little bit more. All right, so about midfoot under the bar, specifically the cuneiform bone. If you're not sure what that is, think about that bone at the mid-top part of the foot where if you're going to drop something, it's almost always going to land there and it really, really hurts. That's the spot. So you want to have that under the bar. Next, you're going to bend at the waist. I can't say this enough. Bend at the waist. Not drop right down. Bend at the waist. Bend at the waist. Take your grip. I'm going to reach down, take a grip that's outside my hip range, approximately 1 thumb length from my hips. We want either a double overhand, a hook grip, or an alternate grip. Each of them have pros and cons. Double overhand, it's best for the shoulders, it's best for the back, but it also puts the most strain and load on the forearms, and in many cases that will become a limiting factor. The hook grip, if you don't know what that is, look it up. The hook grip it's money. If you have a hook grip on this bad boy, you will die before you lose grip on the bar. But it's also going to feel for a lot of people like your thumb is being ripped out of the joint of your hand. For me, with weird gimpy thumbs, a hook grip is simply not possible. But if you can do it, it is the best. Then we have the alternate, one up, one down, or mixed grip. This will confer greater gripping power, enable you to hang on to the bar. So for me, a double overhand, past about 350, I start to have some trouble. But as soon as I go alternate grip, I'll go up to 5, right? Or higher, and I'm not going to lose the bar. But it puts a lot more strain on the long head of the biceps tendon of the shoulder whose hand is supinated. It's even more important to recognize that if you don't have good triceps control, if you can't lock out that arm perfectly straight, don't use the alternate grip. Because if the elbow is bent at all, it's a shocking level of stress on this fiber, specifically the biceps brachii. And that will ultimately conduce to injury across the long term. I know because it happened to me. So, choose your grip predicated upon those components. I will demonstrate today with a double overhand. So once you've chosen your grip, you're going to bend at the waist, as I said. Take your grip approximately 1 thumb width from the bar. From there, you're going to inhale, brace your core, lock out your core, and then you're going to hang on the bar as you sit down. So I'm going to hold that breath in my torso, pull up on the bar a little bit, take the slack out of the bar, and then hinge myself down into position. How far down to the ground should your chest be? I see this a lot in these videos. It's going to be dependent on your anthropometry. If you can get into position and your shin is largely straight, right? That's going to set your spinal angle. So when I drop into the pocket, and I press my shin into the bar, my shin is largely straight and my spine is quite upright. Thank you, short femurs. If I had a longer femoral position, my ass would of necessity be further out from the bar to hold that straight shin position, and I will be hinged forward a little bit more. So you see some people who are a little bit more upright, some people who are a little bit more flat. If their shins are straight, if their tension is good, if they're not rounding their spine, is it correct? Yes. Right? So understand your anthropometry, your lever length, will determine the specifics of your form. I've seen this so many times where someone walks into a gym and they see some guy doing this exercise and his ass is out and his spine is almost flat down like a Romanian deadlift, and he's pulling heavy weight. And then someone who doesn't have the anthropometry or the lever length to support that position tries to recreate it, and they compromise their spine. So your form position must be unique to your body. I cannot say this enough. It must be unique to your body. So that means what anyone else is doing around you is completely goddamn irrelevant. I'm digressing. Okay, so I'm going to take my position. Make sure about midfoot under the bar. Bend at the waist, hinge. Inhale. Core tension, lats tight, pulling the slack out of the bar, sitting my hips down until my shin touches the bar. From there, on the exhale, stand. At the top of the movement, inhale. Tight core, tight lats, come down with greater velocity. Set tension. And there is your deadlift. Notice that I'm coming down with greater velocity. One of the only exceptions to this rule. Deadlifting is commonly one of the heavier exercises that you will do. You don't want to be decelerating that with a focus on eccentric loading when you've got 500 pounds hanging off of a bar and all of that load is sitting on your lumbar vertebra and your muscle fibers are screaming at you. Don't do that. If your focus is developing mass, and that is all, this is not the best exercise for you. If your focus is developing strength, this is the best exercise for you. If your focus is developing strength and mass, this can be fit into that program, but understand your purpose. In my view, there is no good reason to be doing high volume sets of conventional deadlifts. So, idiots are doing 10 to 12 reps. Or I see these moron CrossFit workouts where people have to do so many reps under a particular load with a time domain that is just asinine. I cannot say enough about that. And so understand, your objective for this exercise is strength. As a function of that, you'll be in the strength rep range, which is, in my view, 8 or down. So, multiple sets of 2 reps, great. So long as there's enough rest in between, awesome, right? Just understand though, your objective here is not maximal mass. As a function of that slow eccentric that you would engage in with the Romanian deadlift is not appropriate here because the load will always be so much larger and the angle of your spine is a little bit different. So you want to be coming down with greater velocity than you came up with. If you know powerlifters, when they get to the top, they just drop the bar. Because when you're Eddie Hall and you got 1,000 pounds on this thing, you don't want to actually be trying to accelerate that on the way down. That's a recipe for disaster, right? And so you're going to come down with greater velocity, not losing control, but greater velocity. You may notice at the bottom, once you come down, you have to reset that lat tension. Lats, 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 lats. Get them really, really tight. a simple trick you can utilize is imagine when you have the bar in position, you're going to bend it around your body, right? Turn into a U. So you want to put the greater portion of pressure on the outside component of the hand to set that tension. And that really, really helps in terms of spinal stability and also pull power. It protects your shoulders, it protects your spine, does a bunch of good stuff. So you're trying to convey maximal tension. Another trick you can utilize here, and this is appropriate for a lot of people, is to turn the toes out. Right? If you haven't seen a good lift like that, check out Kovacs. The guy does crazy weight that way. So, with that external rotation, you're externally rotating the femur and you're biasing the medial glute a little bit more. The glute max is still going to be engaged. With that additional muscle mass, you're going to get a little bit more oomph off the ground, right? And the movement becomes largely the same. So once again, bend at the waist, take your grip, inhale, brace your core, sit into the pocket, pulling up, taking the slack out of the bar, straight shins on the exhale. Hips and shoulders rise at the same time for as long as possible. Inhale, tight core, and you're right back into position. See where I'm at? A mistake that I see a lot of people make is they sit in the pocket for too long. So they get set and they come down here first. Like, okay, let's get my grip. Let's make sure my feet are right. And now let's try to get some breath in there. And now let's get, it's just too long to sit in the pocket. You can't maintain your tension that long. And if you're like me and you're generously endowed around the middle, when you're already crunched in that way, good luck getting your maximal breath in there. And that maximal breath isn't just about power and movement for oxygen, it's about bracing your spine. If you do not know how to brace, learn how to brace. Simple trick, grab the meat of your core, inhale, hold your breath, and try to widen your abdominals into your hands. And we have a brace. It kind of feels like a Valsalva. Not appropriate for everyone. If you're on blood pressure medication, don't do that. If you've had 3 kids, don't do that. If you're your average person who does not have a diastasis recti and does not have any particular issues, do that. Know who you are, and that tells you how you approach every exercise. I gotta write that one down. All right, so one more time. We have all the pieces coming together. We have the bar across the midfoot. We have driven heels into contact. I've seen, particularly in CrossFit videos, people talking about picking up the toes to make sure you're getting that heel drive. I understand the value there. I think that's dumb. And the main reason is that you're obviating the engagement of the thoracolumbar fascia that way. Again, you don't know what the thoracolumbar fascia is, look it up, but it connects to the big toe, so you want to make sure you're getting good foot contact. I like the same kind of idea here that we would get for a squat. The tripod, big toe, little toe, heel. Everything's kind of tightened up. But your weight is driving through midfoot to heel as you're in this position. We can't have the heels rising at all. That's a really big deal. Remember, when you're at the bottom of the pocket, right, you're hanging off the bar. When I'm sitting down into it, I'm already pulling up on the bar. I'm taking the slack out of the bar. It really means taking the slack out of your arms, right? I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. How do I cultivate tension that way? So, I'm going to bend at the waist. Take my grip. Inhale, brace core. Take the slack out of the bar. So I'm already pushing my ass back and circling myself down. If I let go of the bar right now, I'm going to fall. And then exhale. Tight core, tight lats. Hold the tension as you come down. Reset. And that is your bar deadlift with a barking dog on. Enjoy.